Hey, welcome to Fentanyl Facts and Stories. My name is Charlie Perry, and my host here is Paula Santos-Young. What's going on?
What's up? I know I wear glasses, but then I noticed that there's a glare, so I apologize.
It's all right. The
How how is
how's
everyone
everything?
tonight?
Well, I'm doing well, and
We have our guest. He said he's trying to get on.
okay.
Yes.
Well, our guest today is Eric J. Caron. He's going to come on, and he's got a bunch of expertise and professionalism that he's going to professionalism that he's going to talk to us about and share some of his stories and his experiences. So we're going to wait for him momentarily. Meanwhile, Paula and I are going to chop it up, talk shop, and go from there. So, how was your day?
Busy. Busy. Busy's good, makes the day go by fast. But
Yeah,
tomorrow's voting. Everyone, make sure you go out and make a conscious decision of voting for the person that you feel will do exactly what it is that you think needs to be done for our country. Um, don't listen to the noise. Go by what you know yourself to be true based on facts. And let's, choose the right person.
that's it. That's it. I see Eric's on the studio, so I'm going to put him
Perfect.
on.
Let's bring him in.
What's going on, Mr. Karen?
How are you, sir?
How you doing?
I'm doing fine on a beautiful Monday evening, and nice meeting you both, Rachel.
Yes, that's
Hi, Eric.
yeah, we nice to meet you. Can't wait to chop it up here and get this podcast going. So the fentanyl facts and stories is something Paul and I got together and we've been doing.
Thank you.
We do pretty well, and I'm glad to have you on here. It's an honor to have you on this podcast with us.
It's a privilege to be here, and thank you for what you both do.
Yeah, it's back at you. I know you're doing many different things. I want to say congratulations on a very impressive resume there. I was reading everything and enjoy it. Talk to me about Switch On.
Well, it's a philosophy that I learned from my Marine Corps father, who became a New Bedford police officer
Hey,
in the 1960s, and without the foundation, which is the mind, body, and soul, and I talk about that in the book, then I would be dead today.
mm,
And I've shared with Rachel that they're equally important, the mind, body, and soul. And I describe it as a Venn diagram when I
you mean Paula, right, Eric?
Paula, thank you. I don't know.
That's all right.
I could
He just gave me a new name.
That's
Paula,
all
Rachel.
right.
Thank you. Yeah. Paula. I did a few shows today, and I apologize. It's been a long day.
It's all good. All good.
And so, the mind, body, and soul is the foundation of living a switched on life. And without what I like to say, that's
Oh,
Charlie, right?
yes.
Without living by living a switched on life, with these principles in mind, even in darkness, you can still see a path to greatness, because we all know the struggles of life. Life is great. We're very fortunate to be on this earth. We also know as humans that we're faced with problems and death and destruction and violence and divorce and drugs. And without being switched on, for me, and I've said it before to you, Charlie, is that I would be dead today because of
Hmm.
all stresses of life. So switched on is a mindset. It's a day by day choice that we make. We all make every morning, every time we get up. that we're going to live our best life, and how we live our best life, even through tragedies, because I faced them. I've faced many deaths in my life personally. You can still live your best life if you're switched on. Because if you're not, then you can go right down that dark, lonely path.
So true.
And as an agent, as a police officer, we have to live those switched on philosophy. That switched on philosophy, because of all that we see and do, not only, during the day, as far as being an agent, and as a police officer, what we encounter on the street. From one minute it's a domestic, next minute it's a hit and run, next minute it's an overdose, or some type of death. And as an agent, similar. And then you have the frustration of the criminal justice system. So it's important that we understand that all of us need to live the switched on philosophy so we can make good choices. And I'll leave it at that.
Exactly. So your dad served 1960s. You said New Bedford?
Yeah, he was a sergeant with the New Bedford Police Department. He was best friends with Jack Markey, my Uncle Jack. I talk about it in my book. And Jack Markey and Robert Tweedy, another family friend of, actually brother-in-law of Jack Markey, basically raised me. I'm one of 7 kids. My dad died when I was 15 years old suddenly.
Wow.
Heart attack on the job, drove himself to St. Luke's. And at the time, there were no benefits to, it wasn't considered a on-the-job death.
Yeah.
And so my mom was handicapped mom. And within 6 months, she got cancer. And, it was a difficult time.
Wow.
But, as sad as his death, and I think Paula can attest to this, as sad as my dad's death was, his death was a blessing, because it put me on the path of becoming a special agent with the U.S. government.
Well, I probably seen a picture of your dad from over the 30 years that I was at New Bedford Police, and and all the names you mentioned, I've known them. Mr. Maki, he's known me since I was a young man and a young child, and we had some good times over the years, talking shop or just doing something. But I tell you a quick conversation him and I had, and I said, "Hey, I think I want to be a quarter officer. Think you can help me out?" He said, "He says I don't have that much clout like I used to, and he said sometimes I come to work and all of a sudden someone's in front of me day one working for me, and I've never met the person in my life, and that was a sign of that. That was a sign where things started turning around in this area when Mr. Maki, the Honorable Mr. Maki, says something like that. Much respected in my community and my family. So, and the Tweedy family, guess what? One of my favorite redheads are in the Tweedy family, and I love her dearly. She's one of the best.
Nice.
Helped out my kids over the years. So,
yeah, and then I did my 25 years. I worked domestically, internationally, and then I taught for 3 years at Mass Maritime. I've been, I wrote my book dedicated to all Leos and to my twin brother who passed away suddenly in his sleep from a heart issue that he didn't know he had. And all Leos, my dad and my brother, the book is dedicated to. And I've been consulting for the last, few years now, traveling back and forth to Africa, teaching transnational crime course to prosecutors and police and customs officials from East African nations, trying to get them to work together and help prevent environmental crime, specifically wildlife trafficking, as well as human trafficking. And I just returned from South Sudan, as I mentioned in my short bio a few months ago, on a Stop Child Soldiers Foundation project. And most people don't understand that we think human trafficking, say we, but society thinks human trafficking is just for labor and for sexual purposes, right? But it's not. It's much, much, much more eviler than we can even imagine. And people don't want to talk about it because it shocks the conscience. But human trafficking is going on worldwide in the area of organ harvesting is multi-billion-dollar industry. Organ harvesting, baby harvesting as well, and witchcraft, human rituals, where children in Uganda. I went to Uganda last year, and I met with the Uganda police official at their headquarters, which was unbelievable. Third world country, if you can imagine. And they have a human sacrifice task force. And so children and elderly are being sacrificed for human rituals in Africa every day. And in addition to that, if it can, say get worse, but children are being used from 5 years old and up, as long as they can hold a gun, as a war fighters in most of Africa, in the Middle East. It's, obviously tragic. My trip to South Sudan was eye-opening. As I mentioned, I went to a concentration camp. It was supposed to be an orphanage, but I walked into 2,500 children in a concentration camp that are being sold for various purposes. And some of them are coming here. Some of them are being smuggled to the U.S. And I think that America has this, I say isolationist personality, but we're so much, even in my people that I know, that will say, just my bubble here in Massachusetts, in New Bedford, Fairhaven, Mattapoisett, Marion, it doesn't affect me. It's far off distance land, but it does affect you. Because of what? Because of globalization, Charlie, as you know, Paula, the world is much, much smaller. And so transnational crime groups and terror groups, as we found out on 9/11, will exploit our freedoms. And I've coined it personally, the 3 T's. The bad guys, the cartels, the terror groups will exploit trade, travel, and telecommunication for their own criminal purposes. That's why our ports of entry, 328 ports of entry throughout this great country, need to be secure. And unfortunately, they're not. And so we think human trafficking, we think cartels, they're in these far off distance lands in Mexico and Uganda and Ethiopia. And does it affect me? No, I don't. But it will, because they're coming here. The drugs are coming here. The fentanyl is coming here. The terrorists are coming here. I mean, I know as an agent, and you know too, there's cartel members here in Massachusetts, in New Bedford, hit squads. They're coming in, committing murder, and leaving. They have hit squads. They come in, kill, and leave. They have a dive team that dive on ships for drugs under the boats. They're the dive team. So the cartels are very much like a terror organization. So I'm sure, Charlie, you've seen it, and I'm sure Paula understands the issue too. But it's getting this type of information to the street where people can understand it, because right now people are so isolated, if you will, and don't want to hear these messages. But unfortunately, I think people wake up when something serious happens, something tragic happens, and they're like, "Whoa, how did that guy get into the country from, pick a country, Ethiopia, or from Sudan, or from South Sudan, where I just came from, and that walked down, Coggeshall Street and opened fire on somebody, and instead of hitting his buddy that he wanted to kill, he killed my mother. This guy shouldn't even be in the country.
Yes.
And it goes on and on. So I think we as a society here in America need to wake up and get switched on.
Yeah, I like that. I like that title, and I can understand it very well. Definitely will be on my book list very, very soon.
Well, I'll
And,
give you a copy. I'll give you both a copy, my friend.
listen, I'm an author just like you, and it makes me so much. It makes me feel so much better when I contribute to the cause. So I would like to kind of order it, let it come to me. I feel so good when it gets shipped to my house and I pay for it.
Thank you.
And then, just like you're trying to give me a book, I'm gonna give it away to someone else.
Yeah.
I even like to bring some books to the public library, and add it to a lot of local interest youth issues and authors and everything, because it's very, very important that someone else gets to pick up your book on the shelf and see it and read it. And so I do that quite frequently. And
Thank you.
I just want to let you know.
Yeah, thank you. And the audiobook is phenomenal. I tried doing it myself, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
And the audio, I had to hire a voice actor to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm proud of the book. It's part memoir about my life growing up, and then I tell some war stories as an agent in New York and DC and Boston and Dubai. I was an agent. I was the
Mhm.
attaché in Dubai doing mostly WMD, like
Yep.
weapons of mass destruction type undercover operations, targeting Iranian cells, trying to procure U.S. WMD. When I say WMD, Paul, it's nuclear, it's biological, nuclear, chemical technology that the Iranians are looking to acquire for their programs.
Yeah, and I know because I don't know if I shared with you when I spoke to you. So Charlie and everyone who's hearing, I was connected to Eric from Jesse, who actually is on tonight and says Eric is a great man. Jesse, who's running for state rep, amazing. We had him on, and I did send him the link. So I said, if you want to jump on, please feel free. But, Eric and I had a conversation. And one of the things that, I feel that we clicked on very, very much so was because of the tragedies that we both have faced. Unexpected tragedies, but tragedies that, as everyone knows with my organization, and Charlie, because you knew Andrew, it's turning tragedy into purpose. And that's what we're doing. And when you talk about WMD, I know it very well because one of the dads that I am going to be connecting you with, Jim Rawl, he runs Families Against Fentanyl. He lost his son 9 years ago to fentanyl, and this is all he's been pushing. And he is pushing weapon of mass destruction because nobody wants to talk about what can happen. Nobody wants to talk about, and you were an agent and you told us a little bit about what you've seen. But this is why I so appreciate you being on, because I think sometimes it's like you said, people are living in a bubble. Like we just had a bust not too long ago where someone delivered fentanyl with a drone. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, well, I've been talking about that since I've been doing what I'm doing. And, David DiGregorio, who I don't know if you know, the former Massachusetts director of hazmat, he is a wonderful friend of mine. He's actually in Dubai right now. And, he did a whole drone exercise at Gillette Stadium back in 2018. And all the emergency management services were there, and they showed what can happen if fentanyl was disseminated into just the restaurant areas and the parking areas. 7,000 casualties in less than 5 minutes.
Right.
But, we continue to have this mindset, as you said, even with the trafficking of, oh, it's not going to happen here. It's not happening here. I tell people when I speak, Eric, and when I do events, not talking about it does not make it not here.
Sure.
Because guess what? It is in your neighborhood. It's in your town. It's here. You might not want to talk about it because it hasn't, quote unquote, affected you. But when we have a rate of almost 60% of Americans know someone who has either passed away from fentanyl poisoning or has had a unexpected poisoning, but are still here because of Narcan. When you're looking at a number of 60%, that's massive. And even with you, with what you did and what you've seen, you're trying to make the masses listen. And sometimes it's like you said, it's like, and Charlie knows because everybody in the community says this about me. I want to throat punch them because it's like, what are you not hearing? We're trying to warn you.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I've at times, and like you, Paul, have been described as the Paul Revere trying to warn people of the train has left the station. It's coming down the track, and you better get out of the way, or better do something before it hits you. And unfortunately, we're not paying attention even today with all the tragedies that are around us, and we're not switched on. We're switched off. And I saw the tragedies in my job relating to the drugs that are flowing in, and Charlie has as well. And we're not even paying attention to the shipping containers that come into America. Every year, something like 50 million shipping containers come to America. And CBP, Customs and Border Protection, inspects about 1% of them, give or take. Yes. When I say inspect, I mean open the door. I don't mean scanning the container with technology. I mean opening the door and looking inside and verifying what's in it. Looking at the manifest and making sure that what's on the manifest is actually in the container. Of course, we need technology, but we don't have, CBP doesn't have the personnel to do more inspections than probably that 1 to 2% of shipping containers. So, and I know, and I think I shared with you, Paul, that I was directly involved in a DEA operation while in Dubai,
Yes.
where I was able to convince the UAE officials, Dubai, the Director General of Dubai Customs. Actually, very few people know this. I'm sharing some inside information, if you will, that it was a DEA-led operation. DEA came to me, the attaché, and said, "Hey, I understand you have a good relationship with Dubai Customs. We have information that this container has 14 tons of a precursor chemical in it, WMD agent in it, 14 tons. And it's coming from China. It went to Singapore, to Dubai, transiting Dubai onto Iran and then Pakistan. And we needed to get it off the ship. And so I was able to convince, after a couple of meetings, convince the Dubai officials to get it off the ship. And it was manifested as picture frames. And it came off, and lo and behold, there was 14, basically, I think it was 14 or 15 barrels of a chemical, the precursor chemical for heroin. That would have made something like 50,000 kilos of heroin destined for the world. So, as you know, China is making most of, if not all, the precursor chemicals that is ending up in Mexico and then on to the U.S. But we also know from intelligence that some of the fentanyl is being made on this side of the border as well, because it's too, if you will, I mean, they're making it in China for the most part. but Mexico as well, and in the Houston, if you will, Texas border crossing areas as well, and of course the pill presses as well, that are happening around this country. And I don't. Charlie may know more, but I don't. I'm not familiar with pill presses, if you will, here in the New England area. But it wouldn't surprise me. Again, there are Mexican cartel hit teams here in Massachusetts killing people and leaving. I saw it firsthand. And I saw like I said, dive teams who are responsible for diving on ships coming into the area and extracting kilos of cocaine under the ships. It wouldn't surprise me if the cartels have set up fentanyl operations here in the South Coast at all.
Yeah, it's
So
it's a
Eric,
heavy
so
traffic. It's a
Oh,
heavy
yeah.
trafficking seaport. So those
yes.
are the ones that you really want to be in. So where it looks like it's just busy, 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 and it's easy way to get in and out without even, well, I can't say without being traced, but it's an easier way to get in and out because it's a business port, a workman's port, as they say. So yeah.
So Eric, so if I were to ask you a question as parents who are listening, right? So today, especially in society and what everybody is seeing, and we're just losing children every day. Every day they're disappearing. Something is happening. They're being taken at the airports. They're just being taken right off the street, walking to school. Do you think that something other is going on? And the reason I say this is because there was this mom, and I'll find the link and I'll share it with you and Charlie and everyone. There was this mom who was at the, now this is where I'm confused. She was at the airport, so there's cameras. Somehow she got separated from her child for like not even a minute. The child disappeared. Now they're trying to tell this woman that she's crazy and she never took her child with her to the airport. So is there something more sinister going on? And the reason I say this is because this is not the first story I've heard like this.
So let me preface this by saying that over the last 4 years, with open borders, we have 25 million illegal aliens in America. Our police departments across this country, including New Bedford, including Mattapoisett, Wareham, aren't able to even handle the calls they have now for, if you will, for American citizens. We have 25 million illegal aliens, thousands of criminal illegal aliens here in America. From where? From East Africa, from the Middle East, from all around the world. Criminals, not good people.
Right.
And it doesn't surprise me at all that we will, unfortunately, this is just the beginning, we will see an uptick of violent crime across the area, across the U.S., due to the fact we have thousands of criminal, illegal aliens that are here. They don't play by the rules, as Charlie knows. I mean, they're thugs, they're killers, they're pedophiles, they're violent people that are coming into our communities and hurting all of us. And the police, quite frankly, they're outmanned. The police are outmanned. Just for instance, there's probably 10 officers on tonight, midnight to 8 in New Bedford. And, that's 10 officers. Charlie would know better. That's an educated guess.
Yeah.
On the street. So my point is, a lot of these calls for service, they can't handle. They really can't handle. And my daughter's taken. And I know of a case. Unfortunately, she is without going into great details, but she was a person on drugs, and she was taken to Boston and pimped out. And I know somebody who had to go and get her. And, so it doesn't surprise me that we will see an uptick of violent crimes and kidnapping. And I mentioned before about what's happening in East Africa with baby harvesting, with organ harvesting. Is it happening here in America? Yes. Sadly, it's happening in America. You would ask me, I'm sure the next question could be from somebody, how many? I don't have the exact number, but rest assured, it's happening in America that transnational crime groups commit crimes that I'm talking about for one thing, for money. For money.
Yeah.
There are
Yep.
62 doctors under investigation in Uganda for working with the transnational crime groups for organ harvesting. 62 doctors. Okay. Is it happening here? I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. Because there's a price tag on children for organs, for sexual purposes across this country, across this world. So to think that, well, that would never, Eric, come on. Are you kidding me? That would never happen here in New Bedford or Boston. That happens again. That happens in this far off distance land of Uganda, Ethiopia, and South Sudan and Sudan. It doesn't happen here. I've heard about that way off, 8,000 miles away. Again, I have news for you. Because of globalization, those criminals are here now. And Charlie knows, and Paula, our police departments have barely enough resources to answer the call. They're not following up doing investigations per se. And I'm not trying to demonize any police officer or any agency here. But I'm telling you, and I'm being honest with you, that most police departments do not have the resources to do in-depth investigations. They're relying on organizations like yours, Paula, and other organizations, NGOs, to help out because they just don't have the resources. They can't even hire people to be police officers today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. They're going.
What is your answer, Eric, though, being a former agent, okay, and working for, in the level that you did in a diplomat, what is your answer to people who might be saying, okay, so then what do we do? Because I can tell you with many of the agencies that I am partnered with, and because I mentioned many of them to you, it seems to be, and we had a conversation where you even said, yeah, and I won't mention that conversation, but what do we do for the awareness of it? And how do we say respect to combat some of the things that are being said to us by some of these agencies that I hear, but no, don't worry, it's not happening here. No, it is.
Well, I think it starts at the top. At the very top, meaning Washington.
Right.
The president sets the agenda. I spent 5 years in Washington. Great experience. 1 year in congressional affairs, back and forth to the Hill, as they say. So I worked for Interpol. I kind of made myself up to the 7th floor a little bit. So I know a little bit of the inside baseball, what's happening at the higher levels, if you will. So we need to know, we American people here on the South Coast, here in Massachusetts, wherever you are tonight, have to understand elections matter. All elections matter, and who you put in the chair will determine the policies for the next year, 4 years, 3, whatever it is. And we've seen that over the last 4 years, the Biden administration has rolled out policy that has destroyed our nation. I mean, I'm an independent. My honest opinion is that the Biden administration, the Democrat Party, their policies, they've certainly not helped America. Economically, everyone's hurting. Security, we're hurting. People are afraid to leave their house at night to walk down Union Street on a Friday or Saturday night. You get homeless on the street, and then you talk about our schools. You talk about our First Amendment rights and our Third and Fourth Amendment under this administration. So I listen. I hate to get into the politics, if you will, but the number one job of the president or whoever the executive is, could be the governor, it could be the mayor, is to keep us safe. That's the number one job, because anything else is gravy. You can't have trade, you can't have travel, you can't have restaurants, you can't have, tourism, because people won't come because they're afraid because of crime. So the number one job of our elected officials is to keep us safe. And in many cities across this great country, including, I think, New Bedford, our politicians have failed us. And I asked a simple question. I asked the question a few years ago. My book came out a few years ago, and I went on a show, and I said to people, are you any better off today than you were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? And so elections matter, Paula.
Yeah.
And if you want change, people, put people in the chair that will represent you and not their party. Because the Democrat Party has become more of an organized crime organization, in my mind. Because nobody's going to go, John Mitchell will not say a damn bad word about Elizabeth Warren, will he? That her policies aren't helping the city. And so we just keep, electing people who don't put our interests first, our security first. I'm not saying John Mitchell's a bad guy, but his politics stink. They're killing the area.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. They're more so now than ever. But it's the reason why we vote for somebody like Jesse. There's a reason why we vote for a whole lot of other candidates that are just looking. They're not standing by a party other than, just getting ready to stand up for the community, like you said, the people, and have our interests at their strongest interests, because they're given a title, and we hope that that's a title earned when they continue to fight until the day they're out of office or decide to hang it up, and it's very, very important.
If I was a citizen, let me just say this. If I was a citizen of New Bedford, honestly, and we can go on, and I'm open to any questions you have too, Paula, but I got to say this. If I was a citizen of New Bedford, I would be saying, let me get this. I don't understand. I feel discriminated against because the current administration allows panhandling and homeless to be on the street and to beg for food and money on the street. But if I happen to live 5-10 miles in Mattapoisett and Marion, I see none of this. Why is that? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
And I've said that for many, many years. And
why? What's the excuse? I might get sued, or the city's going to get sued, or Stand up for what's right, for God's sakes.
In New York City, they have no standing areas. You can't stand in a public area. They have it posted everywhere. You cannot stand at certain areas. Those no standing areas were decided between a board, city administrations, and they basically got it approved. And it's no different for any community throughout the country. There's ways of doing things. You just have to,
You have to have the will, the
put your boots
political
on.
will.
Yeah, put
And the
your
thing
boots.
is,
Yeah.
you go down. I mean, we all complain about higher taxes and bringing business to the community. Of course, they're not going to come if you allow dozens and dozens of homeless people doing drugs, smoking, drinking, laying down, going to the bathroom all around the bus station downtown New Bedford or wherever else. We got politicians who want to do an encampment, and that just breeds violence, breeds crime. We know the broken window theory of crime. I
Mhm.
studied it, you studied it, and I don't get it. I don't get the fact that some, not all, but some of our elected officials roll over and allow our cities to become homeless encampments. And then you want to say, we're going to raise your taxes. And then you're going to say, we need more business. Well, John or Dick or whoever the mayor is, I didn't go to Harvard.
Mhm.
I went to Northeastern. So maybe he's got a bigger IQ than I do. I don't know.
Mhm.
But it just doesn't take you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. That you will only breed more violence, more crime, more fentanyl poisoning, drugs on the streets if you allow homelessness on your streets. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, I mean, you're definitely preaching to the choir. Anyone that has any kind of um, strong ties or attachment to this area, um, what you feel in New Bedford, you definitely feel in the other towns in the area. And what you feel in those other towns, you're definitely going to feel it in New Bedford. And I try to tell everybody that you got to do it together. If you do it together, then things will turn around. And it's too much of people just wanting to protect their own green grass, or no grass at all, and it's you definitely have to kind of do it together if we want to make this country a much better place. Um,
Well, I've been asked twice by a few folks to move. Eric, move back, come to New Bedford. I'm like, why am I going to move back to New Bedford, Charlie?
yeah,
Honestly, and I'm living comfortably right here in Mattapoisett.
yeah, and it's like you talked about, just a few minutes
I got
ago
my
about.
car. You get your car. Like, listen, I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know, and I people say, Eric, I used to live in New Bedford. I love New Bedford. I love the communities and them. But guess I got so tired of my car being broken into.
Yeah, yeah.
Or so I moved to Marion.
Hmm.
It's you want business, you want growth. Then again, the number one priority, folks, is elected officials to keep you safe and keep the drugs off the streets. Whatever you got to do, and violence off the streets. And we've seen over these last few years, violence is not any better than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago in the city.
Yep,
Mm.
I agree. Friend of mine is getting victimized. Business owner, and trying to have the community. He wants the community to have a good, safe place where they can go and come and be safe. And because the city isn't safe. He keeps getting victimized every week, every weekend, based on trying to keep things safe, and he has to act upon different things, and so now it's jeopardizing his business and whether he wants to stay stay afloat or not.
Exactly.
Uh, yeah. The I definitely been talking to more and more people about fentanyl. It almost like it's attached to me now, and I love stories. I like people to tell me different stories. And and Eric, I really really appreciate your stories. The real, organic, and um, it means a lot. And especially what happens after this podcast, the numbers go up increasingly higher. And then more and more people start listening to your message, my message, Paula's message.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate something that I haven't heard on this show yet, on this podcast. And the one thing you mentioned was the production of fentanyl within the country. Sometimes we forget about that. We forget about that, and how enormous that is. Also, that they have factories and production going on in this country, that we seem to forget. Kind of, that's like we are looking north, but just south of you, there's a big plant right behind you that you never see.
Yeah, Charlie, listen, when I was an agent, I was the agent in charge in the state of Rhode Island. And shortly before I left, just as an example, we got information from our Arizona office that they took off a bad guy with $500,000 in cash. And he was tied to a avocado company in Warwick, Rhode Island.
Wow.
And pushing basically the cocaine was coming up from the border, Arizona to Rhode Island, and it was going to this avocado company.
Amazing.
And by the time, within, I think, the next day, we hit the avocado place, and it was cleaned out.
Man.
And you're absolutely right. There are storefronts, we call them storefronts, all across this country, including Massachusetts,
Yes.
for drugs, for money, for various WMD chemicals. I mean, this is a business. This is all about money. Money. I can tell you, I just saw a report from my old agency that $4.4 billion with a B was sent back to Mexico last year. $4.4 billion in money remitters.
Wow.
$4.4 billion was sent back to Mexico. How much of those funds were from illegal proceeds is the question.
Yeah.
But $4.4 billion sent back to Mexico.
Did they say why though, and why is that being allowed when they're proclaiming that they're putting all these tariffs? Is that how you say it? Sorry if I'm saying it wrong.
Well, no, I mean, Paula, you could walk into a Western Union or whatever wire transfer you want to use and wire transfer money back to Mexico.
Yeah.
With very little oversight.
Mm-hmm.
Very little. I can tell you, I can tell you that case I referenced in Rhode Island, that a national bank with branches here on the South Coast opened. Now the guy, let me just go back. The guy that was arrested in Arizona with $500,000 in cash, he was a previously convicted felon for drug smuggling.
Mm-hmm.
He was connected to an avocado plant in Rhode Island. He had a U.S. bank account with funds in it. If the bank only did some due diligence, which they're supposed to do, they would have seen that this customer was a drug smuggler,
Mm-hmm.
a convicted drug smuggler from 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
So this is about business by the banks, banks are supposed to do due diligence, but again, it's about money. Banks are making billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, and touching drug money, touching Iranian sanction money, touching Russian money. They turn a blind eye to it. I know, because I used to work for HSBC in
Mm-hmm.
Dubai when I left the government. I was hired. HSBC received a $1.3 billion penalty by the Department of Justice for knowingly touching drug money. So they hired me and a bunch of other people about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, because of it. So banks and money remitters don't do the best job. You would think, here we are in 2024, they would make sure they do their due diligence when it comes to customers or individuals or corporations who want to open a hotel or open a shipping company that may be tied to drug smuggling.
Mm-hmm.
I want a shipping company, and I want to open a place. Let's just say I want to open a shipping company in maybe New Bedford,
Mm-hmm.
and you might want to do some due diligence on people and financial due diligence. But unfortunately, Paula, there's a lot of money going back to Mexico. Like I said, just last year alone, just via money remitters, $4.4 billion, and that's coming. Those are official numbers from the Department of Homeland Security.
Amazing.
Do you still talk to some? I'm sure you're so connected, very much so, to many of your friends in the agency.
Yeah.
Are they as frustrated as you are, especially now with what they continue to see with not just with the crisis that we are facing, but also with the child trafficking? Because, just in hearing you speak and the many years that you were in and you did this and you're still doing it today, does it ever get to a point where, your coworkers, I'll call them that, just say, okay, like, seriously,
Yeah.
do we need to be in charge?
Yeah. Well, Charlie knows, and it's been well reported that tens of thousands of LEOs, law enforcement officers across this country, have left. They've taken off the uniform, they've taken off the badge, and they've left.
Mm-hmm.
Early retirements, quit. And that's at the local level, state level, federal level. Charlie knows this. Back in the day, if you will, not too long ago, becoming a police officer at the local level, state level, or federal level was difficult. You had to be, you needed a degree, you needed to have a clean record, good integrity, good morals and values, because the community entrusts this power in you. It's different now because we can't fill the seats.
Yeah, the numbers are so low. Then the numbers are so low just taking the exam. And
we have to have a bonus. We have to offer signing bonuses at the local level, at the state level. I don't know, some agencies, and we've demonized police 4 years ago. And I've seen the U.S. Customs and U.S. Customs Protection, CBP, Border Patrol is part of CBP, essentially a division. The guys got so frustrated about a year or so ago. They made patches that said the U.S. Welcome Patrol.
Jeez. Wow.
And I was showing them. So the U.S. Border Patrol is extremely morale is is so bad that, suicide rate is high, and that various reasons, but the frustration of a job is certainly not helping police officers at the local, state, and federal level. So we're seeing an increase in suicide, and of course the increase in people just quitting the job. And when people can retire, they leave because, again, our liberal politicians at the local level, at state level, and federal level do not have their backs, and they're quick to demonize, quick to prosecute police at the local, state, and federal level. Just, you remember 3-4 years ago, there was a big hoopla. CBP, Customs, the Border Patrol Horse Division was, accused as being racist, and they were whipping these illegal aliens, and it was going to be an investigation. Turned out to be nothing, and I felt it firsthand myself. I was involved. I led the Michael Bianco investigation in New Bedford. I started that case. I led that case. We arrested 362 illegal aliens. We criminally arrested 4 people, including the owner. And unfortunately, the politicians at the local level, state level, federal level, colluded with the media. And I talk about this, and I directly show it in my book, how they colluded with the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Standard Times, and they demonized men of law enforcement, including me. And they made it about the fact that we ripped babies away from mothers' breasts, and babies were dehydrated because the mom was in detention. And John Kerry and John Kennedy and Scott Lang all lied. They're liars.
Yeah. It's a troubled time.
And who unfortunately, because of that, if you will, again, these liberal politicians, who suffers? We do, because people don't want to be police officers. Crime increase, and it's not better than it was 10 years ago. Again, both at our federal level, as far as immigration enforcement, and even local enforcement. Yeah. So we're not better today than we were 10 years ago. We're worse.
But does it piss you off, Eric, that and it's interesting that you mentioned Michael Bianco, because what you don't know about me is that I actually ended up working in that building when it was Eagle Industries, because Eagle Industries came in and purchased that building. And then some of the employees ended up coming back, and I heard the stories. And I think what frustrates many people, and
they were slaves. Let me just say, Paula, these people were slaves. Myself and law enforcement rescued nearly 400 people from the slave. And I was shocked. I write this in my book. I walked into that facility. We did a covert operation. We did an undercover operation, Charlie. We put an undercover agent in there for a week, employed him as a legal alien. I mean, this was a great case. If you read it, great covert operation, great case. We arrested everybody, criminally as well as administratively. When I walked into that place and I looked at these poor people, I was disgusted at Scott Lang, John, Senator Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, all our politicians who allowed this to happen, because Michael Bianco was making their contracts were over $300 million. Scott Lang and the city and the state didn't celebrate these contracts. You know why? Because they wanted no attention to this facility. They kept it quiet. And when I walked in there and I said, oh my God, this looks like 1921. Wow. These people couldn't talk to one another. They couldn't go to the bathroom without raising hands. There was no heat in this facility. They had work with jackets on. There was no workman's comp. People were getting hurt in there. They were getting abused by managers. It goes on and on and on and on and on. They were being paid $6, six something an hour. Nothing to see here, though.
Yeah.
Who's to blame? Who was to blame? Law enforcement for executing the arrest and the search warrants. And that was disgusting.
And then he didn't do much time in jail, did he?
He did a year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think for me, what was the eye opener, Paula, was I discovered a document in preparation for my book that very few people have seen. I found it.
Yeah.
And the document was from the Massachusetts. Actually, it was from the Carney. It was from an institution out of New York. I don't have it right in front of me. I apologize. And they did a study on the Massachusetts Immigration Advocacy Group. It was about a 15-page document. I have it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the document, they clearly show how the advocacy group, the politicians, as well as the media, all work together to change the narrative against me and the men and women of law enforcement. They did a good job.
I believe it. I really do.
I have it. I mean, it's in black and white. You can't deny what is written in this document. The Carnegie Foundation. I have it. It's 15 pages. And then when you put the pieces of this puzzle together, because I knew the law enforcement side, what we did, and then you look at the press, and then you look at this document, and you blend it all together, and you're like, oh, that's what was happening behind the scenes with Scott Lane and the governor and Ted Kennedy. And this is why they did X, Y, and Z and what they said.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. They were pawns, unfortunately. And, you know, the city of New Bedford gave Michael Bianco about $50,000 in tax, like credit of some sort.
Yeah. It's always.
I'm sorry, Paula.
They always say follow the money.
Yeah.
And if you follow it, you will definitely get the answers that you're looking for. And then some.
That's why we know, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners are going to understand that what you're saying is true, because we're seeing it today. All people have to see is not just the child trafficking, but the crisis that we're facing. Absolutely. You have people who are saying that it's not as bad as you say it is. Well, the numbers are going down. Well, the CDC said that we're not having as many overdoses. Seriously?
Yeah.
Like, CDC, who are you talking to? Because let me introduce you to Massachusetts Hazmat. Let me introduce you to the people that I talk to. Let me introduce you to Eric Caron, to Jim Rawl, to all these people who are doing this every day. That's not facts.
Yeah. And so can I ask you, Paul, let me ask you, Paula, the question is, yes, on average, are we still looking at about 110 fentanyl poisoning a year or overdoses?
It's going to be over that, because we're still at 305 a day, 22 teenagers a week. And now, the National Drug Administration finally came out and did say that now it's the number one killer of 14 and under is fentanyl poisoning. So we are definitely going to be looking at higher numbers. And then, of course, you have these folks who continue to say that, well, the overdoses are down, but the fatal overdoses are not. The fatal poisonings continue to go up. Anyone in this state right now, and I'm sure you can make a call to anyone, they will tell you that they are finding more and more fentanyl. There was just a bust not too long ago, and it was a pill press. It was in a residential neighborhood, a pill press machine, and it was outside of Boston. And again, 100% fentanyl.
Yeah.
And it was pills that were made into SpongeBob SquarePants. for the kids. So
Right.
this is what I don't understand, why people are not getting this. They're just not. I don't know who else we need to have on. Charlie and I and you. Like, we could do this every week. I don't know who we need to bring in here for people to literally say, okay, you're right, this is happening. Yes, the child trafficking is happening. How do we come together and fix this?
Yeah.
Or at least come to the table and say, we have a problem and this is what we need to do. We understand we're going to take down these people, but damn, we need to do something to try to at least put a kink in the armor.
Yep. And keep it in mind too that, and I'm sure you know this, Paula and Charlie, that these international cartels, gangs, there's
Yes.
about give or take 7 in Mexico, but there are many, many, many others around the world, from China and other parts of Asia. They'll do this is all about money. So
Yeah.
they'll smuggle people
Yes.
with drugs and fentanyl. They'll smuggle weapons. They'll anything to make a buck.
Yep.
So, I'm moving 10 people across the border. I'm giving them whatever I can to carry with them. This is about making money. So, human trafficking as well as drug smuggling, not always, but you can be like this. I've seen organizations working hand in glove and with drug cartels, human trafficking, as well as terror groups. Terror groups, which I know a little bit about, from Al Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, Boko Haram. Again, these terror groups they're very much structured like a cartel. So in the terror group, you have different divisions. You have the operators who are actually strapping on the vest and killing people or committing crime, committing the acts, the operators. Then you have, the support staff who are getting the counterfeit passports. And then you have the individuals who know how to smuggle them into the US. Then you have the fundraisers, basically, the people raising money for the terror group. And so the cartels is very similar in their structure. You have the money people, you have the support people, you have the mules, the people on the ground, you have the growers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the overlap, I guess I'd make my point, is that the overlap between human trafficking and smuggling is certainly there.
Yeah.
With the gangs.
I really very intrigued and kind of anticipating getting your book and kind of reading it.
Go to Switched On Life.
All right. And you said you have an audible version of it?
Yeah, I do. If you go to Amazon, my book is on Amazon and the audiobook is there as well, or anywhere you want to, wherever you buy your books.
I have it on the bottom line there, your
Thank you.
link. And I also have it in the comment section.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Audible books are great for me because of the length of time that I'm traveling every day. So they're very good for me, because I can listen to them for at least 2 hours. And I get to listen to a great book, and I'm pretty sure, without a doubt, your book is going to be amazing.
Well, let me tease. Can I tease it for a second? And let's see if I can memorize one of the last pages of the book. And I probably shouldn't do this, but I love the last page. And I'm not sure if I gave it to you, Paula, right? And it goes.
Oh, yes, you did, because you sent it to me. You said I'm going to send this to you because I feel that this is what you need right now.
There you go. And it summarizes life for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It is through love and loss that our hearts take shape, and our growth as human beings is guided. So it's just that hits me because it is so true. It's through love and loss that our hearts take shape.
Mm-hmm.
And for Paula, she took a tragedy and she's turned it into something good.
Yep.
And that's commendable, because many people, and we all know some of them, who've taken tragedy who have felt tragedy and have unfortunately gone down a deep, dark path. And Paula and myself and hundreds of other people have taken the tragedies, if you will, of life, because there are some, and turned it into a blessing.
And being a poet that I am, I really you just probably inspired something, maybe in my next writing or two, in the next couple of days. So I really that kind of hits home. I really like that. And But like I said, I can't wait to have your hardcover, your paperback book in my hand this week. Maybe the beginning of next week. But the audible version I will be listening to very, very soon.
Get
Because
get ready, because it's a wild ride, baby.
I love journeys. I really do. I love
Wild ride.
journeys, and I tell people, I said, look, I'm about to go on this journey with Eric Caron, and it you know, books do that for me. They really get me going, and also inspire me. Every book that I've ever read, especially from people that are on my podcast, it always gets it always moves one of my stories, and I said, you know what, it's time for me to do something that I talked about years ago, based on being inspired by Eric and so on and so forth. So, but I appreciate you. And Switched On is almost, I got to give you a 5 stars just on that title. I really do. That's amazing. I really do like that.
Thank you.
So,
Well,
and
I'm trying to get Eric to come to my events next week so people can meet him live in person, and I can just say I have someone more important than them next to me.
When is the so we can talk offline. I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually, believe it or not, I have an event in Ohio. I'm going to a college in Ohio with the founder of Stop. Let me get it straight. Stop. Oh my God. Stop Child Soldiers Foundation. There you go. Stop Child Soldiers Foundation. He's a former child soldier at the age of 10. And that was my purpose of going back to South Sudan with him a few months ago. And it was obviously a dangerous assignment. I went with him. And so I'm going to be, he's doing some fundraising in Ohio, and I'm going to be with him next. No, actually, I leave. I leave. I don't know. I leave later this week, and I'll be back over the weekend. So, and you let me know when your event is again this coming week, right? Is it in Springfield or Boston?
Yeah. Thursday is Springfield. Friday is Gillette Stadium.
I might be able to do Gillette.
Well, there's 1,000 people who have RSVP'd.
Okay, great. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Yeah. I'll send it to you. And when you go to Ohio, please let me know, because I want to be able to connect you to that dad I was talking to you about that is pushing the WMD.
Mm-hmm. He's in Ohio?
Yes, he is. He's in, I'm almost positive he's in Akron, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I'll be close.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think I'll be like an hour or so away from that area. I think I'll be at, like, I forgot the name of the college, because I'm be speaking and then turning it over to the child soldier to speak about his foundation. But I'll be in that area. I'll text you, let you know the name, and
let me know for sure. But thank you so much, Eric, for being on.
Thank you very much.
You. Thank you for giving us your time and just,
Yeah.
communicating with me and being in touch with me. And I thank, Jesse, because I know he's still on, for introducing us, because it's like he said, this is a powerhouse. People aren't ready. They're not
Yeah.
ready. They're not. So, but I thank you so much. And I hope everyone has enjoyed tonight. Charlie, as always, my wonderful host, because
Thank
he's
you.
amazing.
Thank you. Back
He
at
started this because of the loss of my son, our son, and he knew him. So this is kind of his homage to him. So Charlie does something every time we have a podcast, Eric. So I know we're almost at time, Charlie, but Charlie asks me a football question, knowing I don't know crap about sports.
Yeah.
So so I always tell him I'm going to, call a friend. So you are my friend today. So you can only help me if I ask you.
Okay. A lifeline.
So yes, my lifeline. So Charlie, what is your football question for me this week?
Before the ball gets to the quarterback, who holds the ball?
I don't know. I know it's the guy that holds it, and he has to hold it like this, and then he says something, and then I don't know the guy's name. Is it's okay? I'm calling my lifeline.
Circle the center. How about
You
that?
got it.
It's the center.
Yeah, the center. Yeah. All right.
I don't know. I just look at it as the guy that's holding
Look,
it and giving it to him and calling all these things out.
Even Jack McGee's giving you an answer too. It's the center. All right, Paula, we're gonna give you. I'll give you half a point on that. All right. Yeah. Actually, I got to give you a full point because you did a call to Eric and he helped you out. So the
can I call Eric every week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know sports.
It's all right. Well, Eric, feel free to get in touch with me anytime, any place. Definitely. I'm going to endorse your book every single week on both of my podcasts. Actually, all three of the podcasts.
Thank you.
Definitely recommend the book. On the frequency live that we have on Sunday nights, I do the frequency report. So my frequency report this coming Sunday will definitely be switch on.
Well, thank you. I got to say too, I get the most pleasure actually when I do public speaking and share the switched on philosophy, in addition to sharing the art of fighting without fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had the opportunity to travel a little bit and share that philosophy in for different organizations, be it large or small. So if people are looking for a public speaker, and there's various topics I can talk on, but I enjoy sharing the philosophy of the art of fighting without fighting, and to identify, avoid, and escape threats prior to an event. And I talk about, how my training as an agent, nationally as well as internationally, kept me safe. And I share some of the tips, if you will, to people to keep themselves safe as well as their loved ones safe on the street.
Awesome. Yeah.
So,
You stay safe.
thank you.
That's a word that sometimes we say too lightly, and I think that is very important that we say that to everybody because we all have to stay safe in these troubling times.
Stay switched on.
Yeah. And Paula, I next Tuesday, Marvin and and is it Gina? They want to do that podcast with you, so
Okay.
I'll have two podcasts that evening next Tuesday. One, you guys will be the second one. So I just wanted to let you know ahead of time, and I'll send you the link within
Yes.
a few
And
days.
Eric, Jack Nagia said he knew your brother Eddie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Eddie, my brother Eddie was the captain at New Bedford High School.
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. Remember him. This is a awesome podcast, and I definitely can't wait to see all the insights, and hopefully everyone kind of gets to listen to the message and apply it. And with this podcast, it's we practice what we preach. So everything we are telling you is fentanyl facts and stories. And I want to say God bless to everyone. Eric, we can do this at any point, anytime again, if you wish. And also, you got my support with anything that you're doing. I appreciate you.
God bless and stay switched on, folks.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you, Eric. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you. Great show. Appreciate you all.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bumping through your broadcast. Grab a chair, fill your glass.